Did you know that for this movie, Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson were only on set together for one day? Ben Stiller spent the rest of his time talking to a toothpick, and Owen Wilson filmed his parts 3 months later. So this movie brings back a lot of special memories for me. When I first saw this movie, I was in elementary school, and I just got my report card back, and I did really well. And I was at my friend Aaron's house, and his parents are there, and I actually did better than Aaron did, which was pretty rare because Aaron was smarter than me. But his parents were really proud of me, and so to celebrate, they took us out to see Night at the Museum that night. What makes this movie special to me is Aaron's mom, Mrs. Raleigh, meant a lot to me, and she sadly passed away from breast cancer 2 years after Night at the Museum came out. So every time I see this movie, I'm reminded of just the great memories I have associated with this movie. This is a fun family movie that I always really loved watching. It's just kind of a guilty pleasure movie for me. If I don't really know what to watch sometimes, I'll sit down and watch Night at the Museum. And I like this movie for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is I think the CGI in this movie is actually quite beautiful. It's really well done. Some critics out there say that they rely too much on the CGI, but I don't think that's true. I'm actually amazed at how well the CGI actually looks. I mean, it was made in 2006, and some of the CGI in this movie looks better than CGI nowadays, which I don't really understand that. I just love the comedic aspects to this. Ben Stiller's a funny dude, but I'm mainly there for Robin Williams and Owen Wilson. There's just a lot of fun, lovable characters in this movie. It's a pretty close tie between Jedediah and Octavius and Teddy Roosevelt for me when it comes to my favorite characters and why I like them. Teddy is just because Robin Williams and how amazing of an actor he was, and he was just a phenomenal guy, but also just the chemistry, the friendship that's being built between Jedediah and Octavius. They just work off each other so well. There's some really strong life lessons to be learned in this movie. The two big ones are self-respect and courage. Self-respect, as Ben Stiller's character is trying to make ends meet, and he feels that he was never really sure about being a night guard. And he doesn't really respect himself enough to give it a chance because he feels like it's going to fail. So it's definitely a big gamble for him taking on this job, taking on the responsibility, but mainly he's just doing it for his kid. He wants his kid to look up to him. He wants to be able to provide for his son. But courage also, the courage as in he had no idea what he was getting into, and once he figured out what was actually happening, Larry's character found a lot of enjoyment and fun in the history of things, and beginning to make friendships with all the people there. And he gave it a second chance because, like I said, he wasn't sure of if this is really what he wanted. He was very close to quitting a couple times just because it's not what he envisioned. But he kept on, and his perseverance paid off. I'd say the only really negative things I have to say about this movie is the pace and the plot is good. It's not great. It's not meant to be a super deep plot. The pace can kind of be a little slow at times, I feel, but for the most part, it does keep my interest. It does keep people's interest, but I felt there are a couple times in the movie where they could pick up the pace a little bit. It's just a fun, family-friendly movie that I've enjoyed for years, and I'm still watching it, and I'm 28 years old. And all the Night at the Museum movies are on Disney+, so I highly recommend you guys check out the Night at the Museum series again, because it's such an enjoyable series. So for Night at the Museum, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 Mudflaps, and remember to leave me a thumbs up and drop in the comments below. Who's your favorite character from Night at the Museum? See you next time.